I wasn't even aware and conscious of the principles I was following. Yet instinctively and intuitively, I knew that within my bones, I needed to do this.
Hi, everyone. Shaelene McInnis here with the Ontario Wellness Network. And my podcast guest today is Debbi Sluys. I'm very excited to be speaking with Debbi. I'm a huge fan of the work that she's doing. As many of you know, I own an accounting and tax company, so I tend to be perhaps a little too logical thinking and not really expanding my mind the way that I should be, which is why years ago, I actually did do a vision board. That's what Debbi's here to talk about today. I was so surprised when a couple of years after I did the vision board, I looked at it. It's right here. It's my first one. And almost every single thing on this massive vision board has come true. It's absolutely astounding. So that's what I want to talk about, because now I've done many, many more since then. And I'm a huge believer now. It's so funny. Here's one of my more recent ones. This is maybe, I don't know, this is a while ago. The end of the road, Alaska. There's a bear. I just came back in the summer. I actually was up in the Yukon driving the Alaskan highway, and I'm like, oh, a whole bunch of this here stuff all just came true. That just all happened. I did see a lot of bears. So I'm going to ask Debbi to introduce herself and talk about the work that she does. Just a reminder, we're going to have all of her contact information included with the podcast. So you're welcome to contact her at any time. If for any reason you can't get through to Debbi, just give us a call at Books in Line, and we will be sure to put you two together in contact with each other. Debbi, how are you? Can you tell us some of the work that you do? I see it's Dare to Declare vision boards. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. So I worked with a web design company when I first started. And when I look back at how my company began, I wasn't even aware and conscious of the principles I was following. Yet instinctively and intuitively, I knew that within my bones, I needed to do this. And I did things like I sought out the best, and I wasn't going to be mediocre and just kind of scrimp by. I literally just jumped out of the airplane, so to speak, and went in. And I had a branding photo shoot for a company that did not yet exist. I did not even know what the photo shoot would be for, but I knew that at some point I was going to need these photos. And what happened was, in fact, the photos became my inspiration for vision, because I realized that, wow, when I looked at the photo of myself, that self-image of that girl that I saw in those, that the photographer had captured, I realized I want to be her. And I see myself, but I see this future version of me who is making a big difference in the world, who's showing up in a really big way. And yet when I looked in the mirror, my present situation was childcare director, multi-site not-for-profit organization. And again, really, I was up to big things there as well, but I knew that I had more of a global audience and mission waiting for me. So that's a bit how I began. And I'm a mom of 4. I have twin daughters and boys on either side of that. My children span an age from 19 up to 31, and they're all actually have just now moved home. My son was living in Edmonton, and so my kids are all now here where I live in Chatham, Ontario. And I have grandbabies, and I have 3 grandbabies.
So
I love that as well.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. So let's talk about vision boards. I started Ontario Wellness Magazine network because COVID was just so hard and difficult on people. I find physically, spiritually, mentally, I just found it to be, and then we're still seeing the remnants of it. I see a lot of anxiety in teenagers, for example. Just a lot of the fallout from that. So could you tell me how do you think your vision boards would help people with their, say, mental health or physical health? Or can you give me some ideas about that?
Sure. Well, this is why I love doing vision boards so much, and that, there's different phases of awareness. And one is, being aware of, let's say you're in an abusive situation, and it comes to a head where you're like, I don't want this anymore. Like you
Mm.
raise your standards, lower your tolerance, and say, I'm setting boundaries. This is not how I want to be spoken to anymore. I want
Correct.
to be in control of my own finances, for example. I want to be in
Yes.
control of my own decisions. And I'm just not going to toe the line anymore. And I'm going to give
Mhm.
myself permission to be independent. So that's great and necessary, but that's just the first step. And
Right.
then it's like, okay, so I've been this person, I've been
Yes.
behaving in this way. These have been my habits, these have been my behaviors, and these have been my results. So I get to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
And I get to say, okay, so I need to have a sacrifice, meaning I got to give up the old way of being
Mhm.
and take a leap of faith into what's possible. And so
Yes.
when you have a vision of what's possible, you, as
Yes.
you said, you quite in your reality create your
Yes.
destiny. And
Mhm.
so a vision board helps with that because it takes the wish, the thought, the dream, the idea, and
Yes.
already makes it tangible and in physical form with having it be an image. So that already is declaring to yourself, to those around you that you trust, and most importantly, the universal laws. I'm serious about this. This is what
Yeah.
I want for my
Yes.
life, and it's displayed on a board. um, I'm going to be interviewing someone this afternoon, and he's going to be sharing his vision board. But he said, do you mind if I don't actually show it? And I said,
Mhm.
no, I actually appreciate that. It's a very
Yep.
intimate experience.
Very personal. Yeah.
You're
Absolutely.
opening your heart, your mind, and putting it on a board. And yet it's so crucial to do that where you get really clear to visualize what it is that you want.
Yes.
So as I said, there's different phases of this awareness, of this awakening, of becoming, awake to your situation. But then it's like, I always think about it like if you dig a hole in the beach in the sand,
Mhm.
if you don't fill it up with shells and rocks or, something else in there, it's inevitably going to fill back in with murky water.
Yes.
So you can dig something out, but you need to fill it back in with what is it that you want.
Right. It's interesting that you say that because I do coaching with people who have been abused in an intimate partner relationship. One of the things I do when I'm coaching is I suggest that people create a vision board, that they work with someone to create a vision board because I think anyone who's been in any type of abusive situation at all, sometimes you lose who you are. You've lost part of yourself or you forget who you are or who you want to be. So that's actually one of the things that I say is create a vision board and remind as a way of reminding yourself this is how I want to feel. Especially this is what I want to feel like. I'm not scared to go home. I want to feel not afraid. I want to feel financially stable or however that is. So that's interesting that you said that because I actually do suggest that. So, what would your process be? Say someone like me, I come to you and I'd like to come up with a vision board. So then, what would your process be?
So we can, there's different ways to come into this process. Sometimes people are coming in doing a mini vision board first. I was just
Yes.
at a retreat in Destin, Florida, where we created a single word. So for those of who are listening here thinking, wow, this really sounds overwhelming, I don't even know where to begin. Having that single word, and especially if you're coming out of crisis, it's
Yes.
about self-regulating. It's about, understanding that you want to build up your resiliency. And so if you think about self-regulation, and this goes back to my early years training, this is what we would support children to do, is
Mhm.
to be able to self-regulate. And if they had experienced
Yes.
trauma, sometimes they would be like the thermometer, either really hot or really cold, right? So they'd be
Yes.
hiding or in anger and complete temper tantrum meltdown. And where we want to be is that Goldilocks porridge, just right. And so if you think about that in terms of a thermometer, like in your home where you want that temperature to be just right, that's what a power word can do. So my word,
Yes.
for example, is anticipation. And so
Oh.
when I feel anxiety, when I feel like, man, I'm just having a tough day, and I've had sales calls, and I just think, what is it all worth? Like, should I keep going this route, and am I really fulfilling my purpose? I remember that I am in a state of anticipation because good things are coming.
I
Because
love
again,
that.
I'm a Christian, but God's got my back, and
Yeah.
everything is for my good. And everything has a gestation period. If you think
Mhm.
about how seeds grow, how babies grow, we like there's a period of waiting. And so
Yes.
sometimes things take longer. Like you talked about your bears on your board, but sometimes vision boards, and I always recommend don't throw them out because
No.
they're continuing to manifest. And even if you haven't
Yes.
seen it within the year, it
Yes.
doesn't mean that it won't show up in a couple of years. So absolutely put that vision out. So that's where I recommend people to begin, is with that single power word. But then our process actually takes 6 hours. And so
Yes.
this is also a very distinguishing factor from a dare to declare process compared to others. Most people, the way they do vision boards, it might be 2 hours. It's based on a collage. There's a lot of words involved. And, it's kind of like I call it like a buffet. So a buffet versus gourmet. Our experience is gourmet. When you go to a
Mhm.
gourmet restaurant, everything's
Yes.
intentional. The
Hmm.
presentation is beautiful. And that's what our experience is. And so it really elevates the sacredness of creating this vision for your life
Hmm.
versus just a bunch of magazines on a table, making a collage and sort
Yes.
of hoping for the best.
Right. Two things about what you just said. I love what you said about the word. I've started to do that every year. My word that I chose for this year was present. Like, be present, be mindful. So instead of worrying about the future or worrying about the past or anything like that, hang on, be present. So for me, that was something that I needed, just to, so if I start, to think about anything and I'm feeling uncomfortable, okay, wait a minute, let's come back to this moment. So that was my word. Thank you. One thing I'm going to ask you, I don't like to say mistakes people make, but I'm going to tell you mine because mistakes people make when creating a vision board or finding someone to help them create a vision board. I'm just going to tell you something that I did, which I wish I'd done differently, is I forgot to put the dates on the back of my first couple of vision boards. I wish I had put the date on them because I was the first one I did. I have it sitting here beside me. It's huge. It's beautiful. Just pulled it out a few years ago. I did this. I couldn't even tell you. I'm guessing 8 or 9 years ago. And then I pulled it out because we had moved here and I showed my husband. I was like, oh my God, look at this. And he went through this whole vision board with me. He's now a huge believer because it's a very large board, but almost every single thing on here has come true, except for these beautiful silver shoes. I haven't found those yet, but I will. But I will find those shoes. But yeah, so there's my piece of advice. Put the date on the back of the board when you do the board, please. That's my piece of advice. But what would you suggest? Do you have any suggestions specifically for people who are considering creating a vision board or power word?
Sure. Well, I just want to also say that the power word only takes about 90 minutes.
Hmm.
The full vision
Okay.
board takes 6 hours. But I give two things. One that comes to mind is most people do not put a photo of themselves on the board. And I would highly recommend that you put a photo of yourself in a prominent
Beautiful.
place. It grounds it, it anchors it to you. And
Yes.
it's not like there's just these things and stuff, but it
Right.
definitely connects, because the whole power of a vision board and the visualization is actually emotion. And so you
Right.
want to create as much of an emotional connection to your vision as possible. So having a photo of yourself is really important.
That's a great
Secondly,
one.
I
Yeah.
would not recommend putting money on your board. I don't
Yes.
have it in my magazine. Oh, so I
Yeah.
don't know if you knew that I have my own magazine. So we've
Please
made the
show us.
process really easy. Um,
Love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like people have said to me, Deb, it's like you've just read my mind. So, which I mean, I have. I mean, I've been working with thousands of clients in the last 5 years. And so the most prominent pictures that I've noticed based on the themes is what I have in this magazine.
Right.
But I don't have a picture of money in there because the money is the how.
That's
So
right.
the vision is
Is
beyond the money. And
yeah.
so I think about when you talk about mistakes, here's an example, here's a story of a mistake. I
Hmm.
had a gentleman and I got on a sales call with him and he said, I'll never make a vision board again. And I said,
Oh,
oh, please tell me about your experience. He said, I wanted a luxury car. I wanted a big house and I wanted my business to have lots of money and be really successful. And I mean, I can see you nodding your head. So you already know
yeah.
where I'm going with this. And I said, so what's the problem? He said, I got all of it. And I said, okay. And he said, but I lost my marriage.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. It's what do you really want?
So you
Right. Yeah.
want this beautiful, you don't want an empty house that you're like, hello, no, you
Yeah.
want to have it filled with love and laughter and
Peace
joy
and
with,
joy and safety. Yep.
right? So
Exactly.
imagining this house with your wife, with, so that it doesn't just simply become materialistic, and that
Right.
it's not about the things, it's about the being.
That's right. It's about what, yeah, exactly. When someone says, what does it you want? Well, I want $1 million, but what does it you want? Well, actually, what you want is financial freedom. You want to be free from worry. You want to have a happy and healthy life. Like the truth is, it's not necessarily actually $1 million. It's not it. What you want is what does that give you? Say you had $1 million. How would you then feel? Would you, I'd have no debt. Okay, so you'd feel peace and you wouldn't worry about debt, right? So yeah, really what is it you really actually want? I agree with that completely. So tell me, so again, say it's me and say my staff. I have eight people on staff. So say I come to you and I wanted to do something with you for myself and my staff, then what would you suggest?
Well, we could do it a couple of different ways. One, I work online, and we could do it
Yes,
over either 2 or 3 consecutive weeks. I did a lot of that during COVID,
of
where I
course.
served teams online that way.
Yes,
And again, it's super easy now. I can mail you the magazines. So, because one of the
exactly.
most challenging things that people will say and actually stops them from creating the vision board is, I don't know where to get magazines. And the myth is there is no magazines. Well, I know that you actually have a magazine, so that would be wonderful. But yeah, so I think that makes it really easy. And then we would get online, and it's like having a short, high intensive coaching program for 3
Right.
weeks.
Right.
So we could do it that way. And or I'm going to Rhode Island the end of
Oh,
this month, and working with 10 women there. So I travel now all
fantastic.
over the world, and well, not over the world, not yet. I travel
Mhm.
mostly into the States, but I've been working
Yes.
in the States, and in Canada, and doing vision boards. But now with the
Wonderful.
magazine, I literally can pack it up in my suitcase, take the supplies, the scissors, the glue, the stickers, and and I really have vision boards will travel. So I can do it
Yes, love
anywhere
it.
with my laptop, and away we go. Yeah.
Yep, I love it. That's so fantastic. I'd hope that everyone watching this takes it from me. It's such a great idea to do this for every man, woman, child, teenagers, everyone. Just helping gain some clarity on how it is that you want to feel in life. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. I look forward to doing more and more and more vision boards myself. Again, all the contact information for Debbi will be included with the podcasts. You can always contact Books in Line. We'll be happy to put you together with Debbi. Thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.